Hello guys and welcome to another video. My name's Mark, I'm an entrepreneur and property investor. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about how to scale a property portfolio. Now, for full transparency, I've got 13 houses at the moment with a value of around about 3.3 million, something like that. So I'm still growing and scaling my property portfolio, but I'm going to sort of let you into a bit of my thought process behind it and give you some of the options. Obviously, I could have far more than 13 houses with a value of £3 and a bit million, but I've chosen to start doing bigger deals as my portfolio has grown. I think it's really important to sort of address this and have a look at why I've chosen to do that and what might help you. So guys, I think before we get into the video, if you could give it a big like, I massively appreciate that. I'm trying to be as transparent as I possibly can. And if you haven't already subscribed, please consider subscribing. We give away the investor dividends every month, so there's cash giveaways. On top of that, we're looking to give away an investment property once we get to 100,000 subscribers. So Nick, I think today we'll go into the whiteboard because this is kind of like a write it down type video. So let's head over there and get into the video. Let's go guys. So guys, welcome to the whiteboard. We're going to get straight into it. And we're going to talk about how to build a portfolio. We're also going to talk about my portfolio, my plan moving forward. So stick around and I'll go through exactly what I'm planning to do over the next 1, 2, 3 years to build my portfolio out. But first of all, I thought we'd just start with some arbitrary numbers. Like if you've only got £50,000 to invest, your plan really could contain maybe you're buying 2 properties of 100,000 or you're buying one £200,000 property. And I'm going to have to make a few assumptions, okay? First of all, what return of investment you get is really down to the deal and down to the individual circumstance. But what I want to highlight in this is the transaction fees. Because every time we transact in the market, it attracts a cost. So by buying 2 £100,000 houses, rather than buying one £200,000 house, we're going to have 2 sets of mortgage fees. Now they range from £1,500 to £2,000, but let's put in £1,500 and be generous. We're also going to buy 2 houses, so we're going to have 2 sets of solicitors fees. So that's going to be £1,500 as well. So already we're going to spend coming up towards 7 or 8% extra of our capital on fees. And what we call this, or what I call this, is the fee drag of wealth creation. It's now called the fee drag of wealth creation. And I think genuinely, every time you transact, there are these fees. Now, if you're using bridging finance, for example, these fees are much, much higher. And that really highlights the importance of doing as little transacting in the market as possible. The same reason I don't really like doing flips, because when you sell a property, you've got estate agency fees, you've got capital gains tax. Quite often you can refinance the property and keep just as much of the money. So I think it's really important to always consider all the fees that are going to go into buying multiple properties. Now that's not to say that if you've got, for example, 27,000, your choice is probably that you're only going to be buying one house of under 100 grand. So that takes away all choice. But at the point that you start to grow your portfolio and you've got 50 grand, for example, if it was me, in this instance, I would probably be buying 1 property rather than 2. I'd look to make sure that on both instances the return on investment was similar, and I would make sure I only did 1 transaction if I could. Now the second choice I've got on here is 100k, which is a large amount of money obviously, and maybe you've refinanced a property in order to get that. Now in this instance you could do 4 £100,000 properties, 2 £200,000 properties, or indeed you could do 1 £400,000 property. Now I appreciate there are fees in all of these, and I'm just talking about the deposit. I'm going to understand that you've got a bit of money set aside to put the transactions over the line. I'm just trying to prove concept, not give exacts on this. So at this point it is a bit more of a difficult decision, okay? Because you could easily say, well, if I could do 1 £400,000 transaction, that'd be cheaper than doing 2 £200,000 transactions. However, here's the catch. In my experience, as the transaction goes up in value, the return on investment starts to reduce in value. And that's because it becomes easier and capitalism just takes into consideration the risk, reward, and ease of doing. And once all of those things are taken into consideration, the return on investment starts to reduce. I would think once you looked at the deals and you did 4 £100,000, 2 £200,000, and 1 £400,000 property, I think you'd probably look at it and go, this one would probably return the best with the least drag on fees. But let me be clear, if I could do 1 £400,000 property and have the same return on investment, I would. I don't feel the need to insulate myself by doing multiple properties. That is not the aim of the game. for me. The aim of the game for me isn't to own 1,000 properties. The aim of the game for me is to make sure that every single let I get is returning between 8 and 12%, maybe 13% if I'm very lucky. HMOs, 15 to 25%. I want all of my money back within 2 to 3 years on all of those sort of deals. So there needs to be some capital add, there needs to be other variables that I can play with in order to make sure I'm getting my money back. But ultimately, and I'm not a fantasist, I'm not somebody who thinks that I can go in, get all of my money back on every deal, everything I do. I know that's not possible. But over time, with capital appreciation and with being able to transact in the market as little as possible, assuming as few fees as possible, I expect to always get my money back within 3, maybe 4 years at that absolute most. So we fast forward to my position, okay, and we have £3 million worth of property, and there is 13 of them. So my average property is worth more than 200,000. Now I've got properties that I bought for as little as 95,000, and I've got properties that I bought for as much as 400,000 in that mix. Now, in terms of what I've done recently, I've bought transactions, I guess, of a little more expensive end. So most recently I bought the one in Didcot for 275,000. I bought one in Corby. That was a bit of a bargain. That was an anomaly, if you like, because it was only 116,000, but it's now valued at 200k. So it comes right into this sweet spot. My one in Wellingborough, again, that was a bargain, 126, it's now worth 200 in less than a year. Both of those opportunities had opportunity beyond just their fees and capital appreciation. So I had to do the deal, really. So let's look at this example moving forward. Let's say, for example, I'm looking to add 50k a month to my income over the next 5 to 10 years. Now, I could have 100 properties that generate 50k a month, or I could look to do 10 properties that generate 50k a month. Now, if I could get those 10 that gave the same return on investment, the same opportunity with less fees, I know that I'm going to be far superior in terms of that drag on my capital. That said, I do also think there's a time drag. So I personally wouldn't want to save up £1 million, for example, to do one big deal, because the time drag of not investing that money. And then to just add a little bit more complexity to my situation, I've also got my YouTube channel, and I want to do as many interesting things on here as I possibly can. One of my friends recently said to me, why don't you do a challenge where you try and buy a property for less than 100 grand, i.e. putting in less than 25k to try and get all of your money back within a couple of years. Do you think you could do that? And I said, absolutely, I think I could do it, but it doesn't really serve my overall purpose. But it might be some interesting videos. For me, what I do might change slightly because of the YouTube channel. Putting all of that to one side and just looking at it from an investment perspective is to do the minimum amount of transactions with the money I have available for the highest level of return on investment. Now, I'm massively interested in how you guys see this and what you guys think you're going to do with your investment strategy. For me, the less amount of times I pay fees, the better. But I do understand that as we increase the value of a transaction, the return on investment traditionally starts to reduce. But guys, in the comments, let me know. I would massively appreciate it. And look, I will see you again on Wednesday when we've got a really good video coming up this Wednesday, so stay tuned.